my default mode was to not put my voice out there, but to ask questions. A month ago or two, I gave a TEDx talk, and that's like literally standing, I feel naked, like in front of a whole room of people with nothing between me and them other than me talking at them. And that was the hardest thing for me. So what surprised me is the fact that people listened and actually liked it. And all those things that deep inside of me I might have assumed were the bad things that were going to happen, like they're all going to leave the room because they're walking away. None of that happened. That's probably the biggest surprise to me. And for me, that was transformative, because it's like, actually, maybe it's not the way I thought it was. Maybe there's actually something that I have to offer.
So Jeff, like, considering that we know each other, and we're both like really into questions and curiosity and asking. I mean, you're a master at that. So I'm just gonna say, what do you feel that life has designed you for? And what have you seen or experienced that makes you think that?
He's an award-winning author and globally recognized expert in adult learning and leadership, who helps people unlock hidden wisdom and transform mindsets. Dr. Jeff Wetzler.
Hi, I'm Topaz. I'm the founder of the Emmy Award-winning series, The End. The End has been an incredible journey for the last 12 years. We've brought in over 1,250 pairs to have incredible conversations, and I've learned a lot. Through this work, I've had the privilege of witnessing the bold, the beautiful, and the heart-wrenching, the conversations that reveal us. I've watched, I've listened, I've learned, and now I'm ready to share. David S. Viscott has a great quote that always inspires me. The purpose of life is to find your gift. The work of life is to develop your gift. And the meaning of life is to give it away. And what I've seen from my 48 years on this planet, through incredible experiences, is that life shapes us. Things happen to us, and we interpret those things, and that shapes us into offerings we can offer others. So the expedition that I'm embarking upon, that I'm inviting you to join, is a journey of conversations. I'm going to speak to people that I find incredible. I'm going to be asking them questions that reveal their life's journey. What are the hidden gifts and challenges and offerings that they have? And on this journey, we will uncover the message the universe has written into your life, for yourself and for others. Are you listening to what your life is telling you? I don't know where we'll go. I'm just going to be very transparent about it. And that's why I welcome you to this journey that we're calling Getting Under the Skin, or Guts for short. Thank you. And let's see where we go. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode, Getting Under the Skin. I'm Topaz. Today's guest, we have Jeff Wetzler. He's a good friend. I've known him for the last 2 years. New friend. I met him at Edmund Hillary Fellowship. And we have a common shared love of the power of questions. Let me read you a little bit of a bio about him, just so you have a sense of who Jeff is. Jeff is an author, entrepreneur, and sought-after keynote speaker. His book, Ask, Tap Into the Hidden Wisdom of People Around You, was named as an Amazon editor's pick for Best Books of 2024. Ask has earned widespread praise by business experts and best-selling authors like Adam Grant, Seth Godin, Jim Collins, and Amy Edmondson, as well as top leaders from organizations around the world. His work is regularly featured in publications from Harvard Business Review to Fast Company to Forbes to Entrepreneur to Psychology Today. He's advised businesses, NGOs, and government leaders around the world. He served as a management consultant to the world's top corporations, as Chief Learning Officer at Teach for America, and most recently as co-founder and co-CEO of Transcend, a nationally recognized fast-growing innovation organization. So Jeff has lived an extensive period in the professional career. He, like me, is a question master. He understands the power of a well-constructed question, what it can reap, the benefits you get from it, how not only does it develop stronger relationships, but it can make a more coherent team. So this conversation was really interesting because we both somehow see the world in a very similar way, at least in the sense of through the power of the question. And to do that, at least in my opinion, you have to love asking questions. So here you have a podcast where two people love asking questions of each other. but also there's a lot of alignment. There's just something that innately feels like we understand each other. And of course, there's things where we have different point of views. And that's what's beautiful. And I really appreciate Jeff for stepping the space and going there with me and sharing of himself. And what I find really interesting is that he's now in his 4th decade. He's just turned 50, 51, and he's wondering what's the next decade like. And I think that's an incredible point of transition in someone's life, right? What are they going to do next? And if you're a master at crafting questions, then obviously the question you're asking yourself in that time of transformation is imperative. And I wanted to see, what is he going through? What is he doing? How is he treating it? And then fundamentally, what happened in his childhood, or what shaped him? How did life shape him so that he really understood the power of harnessing questions? His book, Ask, is wonderful for the professional workspace. 12 Questions for Love is great for the intimate space, for those of intimate relationships. We should sell them as a bundle. We'll have links in the descriptions. But this convo with Jeff, I really cherish and honor. He's kindred spirit, someone who fundamentally is aware of and has practiced utilizing questions to make individuals and teams that much more effective. And so we learn in this interview, in this conversation, where did he get that from? How is he developing it? And how is he applying it now to the next phase of his life? And so, without further ado, I bring you now Jeff Wetzler. So Jeff, I'm just considering that we know each other, not for a long time, but I feel like on a really beautiful level of mutual symmetry, or and we're both really into questions and curiosity and asking. I mean, you're a master at that, and you have a lot of experience of being a master at that in the workspace, and the educational space, and it's great because it's totally different than my experience, right? But we both have so anyways, I'm going to go with you. This is not structurally correct, but I'm going to go straight to the fucking core, to the core question, which might be the only question we ask in the whole episode because it's the big one. So I'm just going to say, what do you feel that life has designed you for? And what have you seen or experienced that makes you think that?
I have been spending a lot of time recently, actually, on this question of purpose, and what is my purpose in life. And I pulled out a couple notes because I was actually literally for the last few days writing notes to myself on this. And I wrote down, here's what I wrote down. We can explore it together.
Yeah.
My purpose is to catalyze transformative learning to unlock human potential. I feel like that is the through line for me in everything I do. Catalyzing transformative learning that unlocks human potential. And whether that's as a parent or a professional or for myself, that is what lights me up. And I come at that from every angle, whether in schools or workplaces or coaching people, on my teams or whatever. There's something about that I just, that to me is what I think is what I'm here for.
I want to break 4 things down. First, I want to break down, what does catalyze mean? Because I use that word a lot too, but what does it mean to you? What does it mean to transformative learning, and why unlocking human potential is so interesting to you? So I want to know those 2 things. And then I want us to go into the meaning of purpose. Why are we asking ourselves purpose instead of a question that we're always seeking versus why so let's start with catalyze. When you say catalyze, what does that mean to you? Because it seems like that's the spark of the rest of the other 2 key words, right? Transformative learning and unlocking human potential. But catalyze seems like the action verb in that. What does that mean to you, and why choose that word? And what's your connection to that word?
I spent a lot of time actually thinking about that word. I think a catalyst, even in a chemical reaction, is something that takes, other things that are in a state of, stasis, or in a state of just kind of status quo. And all of a sudden causes change. All of a sudden bring stuff together that that otherwise might have just been sitting next to each other, but then all of a sudden starts to have the collisions and the friction and the energy and make something happen. So to me, it's that. Like, we all are living our lives, many of us often just in a state of status quo. We're kind of going along. We've got a certain set of assumptions. We've got a certain worldview. We've got a certain way of being that's getting us results. That's not getting us other results. But we need something to catalyze that kind of change and that kind of learning. And so for me, that's part of my purpose is to be that catalyst and to cause and to shake things out of their status quo, to do that. I think the other thing I like that I was intentional about thinking about that word is I'm somebody who maybe likes to the early stages of things more than all the way to the end. Even in my own organization that I started, I stepped down this summer from being co-CEO after 10 years. I think we're still in early innings of the organization. There's still hopefully decades ahead of work to do. But I think my most important contributions are in the first phase.
Yeah.
And then my partner, Elon, is doing an amazing job of carrying it forward. And I'm like, what's the next thing I can catalyze? And what's the next thing I can catalyze? And so some of it's also about that.
What for you is like the difference? Why don't you use the word like catharsis? Like a cathartic conversation, being, the force of catharsis because sometimes I kind of play between those two words. And what for you is the difference between catharsis or something that's cathartic versus catalyst? I
think that catharsis, my association with catharsis is that you're just like getting it all out. You're like you're, somebody is completely expressing, totally unloading their thoughts, their feelings, all that kind of thing. And I think that can be a catalytic experience for people, but it's not the only kind of catalytic experience that someone could have. People could also have a catalytic experience of just seeing something that they never thought was possible before, or noticing something about themselves. And so for me, I don't know. I think catalyst is bigger than catharsis. Because there's so many different ways that you can have a catalytic experience.
I hear like a spark for change, something that sparks change, right?
Yes, exactly.
And you like that, right?
Yes.
Where does that come from? Like, what experience did you have growing up, or what moment, or what, like, maybe in your own life or someone else, like, where do you think that experience may be anchored in?
I think to answer that question, we have to go to the second word as well, which is
great.
A catalyst for transforming, because you could be a catalyst for all kinds of things,
right?
You could be a catalyst for peace. You could be a catalyst, for profit. You could be anything, but like for me, it's really catalyzing transformative learning. And so I think that I'm not 100% sure where it comes from, but I could tell you a couple stories. One is I have always been fascinated with teaching and learning. Literally when I was in second grade. If you ask me what I want to be when I grow up, I want to be a second grade teacher. And if I was in fourth grade and you asked me what I want to be when I grow up, I want to be a fourth grade teacher.
Wow. Did you have a great teacher? Did you have a great...
No, I think it was the opposite. I was bored in school and I loved learning, and my mind was always going to somewhere. And for whatever, kids' minds wander. Some kids are doodling, some kids are, whatever. My mind was going to, how could this be better? What would I do differently than the teacher to make this a better learning experience for myself and for other people? And for whatever reason, the quality of the learning has always been important to me. So I think that's one strand of it. There's probably just something that that's just like deeply innate. I also trace it back to my Jewish heritage as well. Like, I think there's something in the Jewish tradition that deeply values learning. I think, and questions. And there, people say, Jews are people of the book, or people, ask, a Jew a question, you get two questions back, whatever it is. But there's like, there's just something in there. And it was never like a deep and explicit part of my upbringing. But I think it's deep in my heritage as well. And I, when I was in high school, I participated in a program. My teacher, Mr. Perkins, he was the chemistry teacher, speaking of catalysts. And he had this program where he would take chemistry high school students to elementary school, to different schools around the town, and do hands-on science teaching with them. and we would teach them about, all kinds of different things. We would make volcanoes, and we would do electricity, and we would do magnets, and, all that kind of stuff. And I watched the kids' eyes light up. And it was just so much fun for me. Like, it was just incredibly cool to be seeing people, have new experiences, have school, and for them, for the kids, have school be so different than just sitting there the way that they used to be. And so I just loved that program so much. And I loved it so much I actually started it when I went to college. And so I started this program called Providence Science Outreach with a few friends. And we took Brown students, and we went to schools and libraries all around town. And that was probably my most significant learning experience in college, was how to actually start an organization that would do that kind of thing.
When you say Brown students, you mean
Brown University students? Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but there is one other very significant sort of strand of experiences I had growing up, which is that I was a kid magician. Did we talk about this?
A little bit. Tell me more.
I was a professional magician, in the sense that I would charge people money to go perform at birthday parties, bar mitzvahs, other events, different things like that. And this was actually also something in my family heritage. I have like a great uncle who had performed with one of the famous magicians, Thurston, and various various people in my lineage had been doing, and I inherited all their magic stuff as well from over the years too. And so probably starting from age 5 all the way through college, this is what I did. On the weekends, I would perform magic shows. And what's interesting to me about doing magic is that it's actually I view it through the lens of learning. You're trying to actually cause the audience to learn something that is inaccurate, but to the point where they develop a perception that what you're doing is true magic. And so I spent a lot of my time thinking about how are they going to receive something, and how are they going to perceive something, and how can I actually get them to have a certain assumption about what's happening, so that when I do this other thing, it seems like, oh my God, how did that happen? And for whatever reason, that I think those just years and years and years of deceiving people intentionally really got tuned my brain around how do you actually get them to learn things.
Right, because you're basically learning how they see you, or how they see the thing you're doing,
Yes.
so that you can guide them in one way and then show a surprise on the other side.
Exactly, that's right. And so I'm learning that, and I'm looking at what they're doing as also a learning process too, because I'm causing them to learn that the thing is over here when it's really, I've already moved it 2 minutes ago or whatever.
But that sounds to me innately curious, because you're thinking, what are they seeing?
Yeah, exactly.
How are they seeing it? And so you're putting yourself in their shoes, and that's kind of curiosity, right? Is
Totally.
an effort to put yourself in someone else's shoes, or some other thing that you don't know, so that you can learn.
Exactly. And I think I became exquisitely sensitive to how they see things. And if I'm standing in front of a room of 50 people, I'm also thinking about each person too. All right, what might they be seeing from this angle, and what is this person seeing, and so all of that, I think, ultimately, I then channeled back into the design of learning experiences, because I'm always just thinking, how are they seeing it? How are they seeing it? What might they be going through right now? So anyways, all of that is part of my, I think, interest in learning.
But the magic, I know it's funny. The magic is actually, that is almost a metaphor, or it's emblematic of the work that's in your book.
Say more.
Well, you're telling me that you love magic trick because you could be, part of the magic trick was that you had to deceive them, but deceiving them meant that you had to know what they were seeing.
Exactly. Yes, that's right.
You had to put yourself in their shoes so that you saw what they're seeing, and then you could set up the surprise because there's something on the backside that they're not looking at.
That's exactly right.
And so your book Ask is hey, tap into the hidden potential of the people, or the potential that's around you that you can't see. You have to step into their shoes. And in some sense, it's your skill as a magician, or the ability that you made a magician, is just distilled into another language, but the same skill. It's how do you tap into what they're seeing so they can share it with you, so that we can all learn?
Yeah. Thank you for putting that into words. I had never exactly crystallized that before until just a second. But
me neither. That's what I'm hearing. It's amazing.
Yeah. I appreciate you doing that. And for me, it's for me, the magic was kind of deceive in order to delight. I think part of the beauty of the learning process too.
But now it's evolved, like in your work now with the book, and now that you're, really trying to seek how to cultivate curiosity in people, because you've seen how valuable it is in the workspace, right? For the last 30 years in the three consulting, Teach for America, and now Transcend, like 30, you do 10-year decades. That's like your thing. I mean, right? You do 10-year periods. It's like 10-year projects. So for the last 30 years, you've been doing that, and you've really honed the skill of like how to, you've just switched to this, like how to step into people's shoes, and for magicians to deceive them because it gives them pleasure. Here is so that I can step in the shoes so that we can be more successful as a unit.
Exactly.
Right?
And that each person can be more developed as a human being as well.
There we go.
I feel like I stopped you though. You were going to your own reflection around your Jewish connection or something like that.
The thing about that was just, I remember you and I talking early on, and I said, for me, I know that in writing my book was like, well, where did this thing come from? And it was clear to me that it came, like my curiosity, if you will, like my desire to ask questions. For me, it was because, parents got divorced, and there was like a hunger for like, wait, where's the connection? Like, where's the intimacy between these two, my parents that I love so much, that are human gods, like, right? So there was like a desire to like find connection. So I remember asking you, well, where was that, where did the skill set for asking questions come from for you? And I think you had a really incredible answer that is connected to being Jewish too. It's like the flip. Do you want to share about that? Where does your connection to questions come from? Like, how did you use asking questions?
Yeah, I can share. So I grew up in a place that didn't have a lot of Jewish people, and that was at the time not that friendly to Jewish people. I experienced explicit, one-time physical, often verbal, anti-Semitism, and signals that like I wasn't either valued or wasn't safe.
And like what, like junior high school, middle school?
Elementary school through high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of walked around with always a little bit of a sense of like, I'm different. A little bit of sense of like, I'm not welcome, and I don't know with whom I will or won't be welcome. And that caused me to keep a lot of my opinions to myself and views, just because you just never know. And yet I wanted to connect with people, and I found it safer to connect by asking questions than announcing my own opinions. And then I could feel things out, and then I could see who I'm talking with, and if it feels safe, that I can go deeper and share. But I asked a lot of questions. I sat, I observed, I listened, I asked questions, and that worked for me. But it also became a muscle and a habit. And when you do it often enough, you start to get good at anything, even if it's a survival strategy. It can become a muscle. And luckily, I was a curious kid, so I had a lot of questions that I wanted to ask. But I probably knew that was a strength that I could draw upon. And that started to become my go-to with a lot of, in a lot of situations. And if I'm honest, it probably still is my go-to in a lot of situations. Like, I'm not the person who's going to show up at a party and start telling lots of stories. I'm the person who's going to start and listen and ask questions, and have a deep conversation with someone, and then build from there, and then hope that they will ask me questions.
Right. You hope that. But it's funny because when we have our meals together, we meet once in a while in New York, or even on the phone. Like, you're great. You ask questions, but you ask questions and you're really listening. And so it invites people to share a little bit more and more. And then you reflect back so that they feel heard, so that makes them want to share more because they know they're not wasting their time, and you're just waiting to, and so it's beautiful. And I also strikes me that asking questions can also be a skillful defense mechanism, so that the attention is not on you per se.
Mm-hmm.
So you can put the question on them, they're talking, and then you can kind of be not necessarily invisible, but somewhat cloaked, would you say? Or like, it's a way to deflect attention on you so that the attention's not on you, it's on them. Because if you're concerned about, being other.
I think that's a very good, astute observation. And I think it can serve that function. And so often I want them to ask me questions too. And so it's not that I don't want to share, but I need a signal from other people to know that they're interested in me sharing, and that they want me to share. I don't walk in with the assumption that what I have to say is going to be interesting or welcomed by other people. And I've talked to a lot of people who've said, like, I actually feel the same way. And so I'm very sensitive to the degree to which other people express curiosity and interest to me as well. So, sometimes my wife and I will go out to dinner or be at a party and we'll be like, they never asked us a single question.
Yeah.
All they did is they just talked about themselves or whatever else. And that to me is I don't enjoy that. Like if I like it to be two-way. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want to just talk about myself the whole time, but like I'm most drawn to people who want to share and listen and learn as well. And my wife is actually much less sensitive to that. She will feel more comfortable just sharing.
Just sharing.
And then yeah. Like she'll have an interest, and I'm like, she's like, you just have to tell them what you want to tell them. You don't have to wait for them to ask you questions or whatever.
But for me, when I'm in situations, for me, I feel like, look, I already know what's in my head. Like I already know what's in there. I hear that shit all the time. Fuck.
Exactly.
Like I don't. So for me, it's like, well, I just much rather hear what's in other people's heads because at least it's something different. And it might, at least so I don't mind asking people tons of questions. I actually don't mind just sitting there asking tons of questions. I do feel bad that like I'm not sharing, but if they don't care for me to share, then fucking great. It's just like keep going. Like
That's so interesting.
Like I don't need to hear my crazy neurotic head and my thoughts. Like, I
love that. And you're so good at asking questions.
Like, but it's also interesting. Like I met someone like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and he goes, so what, and he asked me the first question, and as I'm giving a feedback, we're standing up, and I see his bottom right foot going like tapping, like impatient, like, which to me is, I'm reading the whole body. Maybe because of watching the and I'm like years of just watching micro expressions and posture, so I'm super attuned. But that's pretty blatantly obvious, they're just like tapping. So you're like, okay, clearly they're not even listening to what I'm saying. They're just waiting for me to then go, and what do you do? So just let me cut to the bullshit and be like, end it right there, da-da-da, and what you do. And then, of course, they went off for like good 20 minutes about...
And did the foot stop tapping?
Oh, absolutely, the foot stopped tapping. No, it was like, boom, I've landed. Let me give it to you. And obviously, I did not tap my foot in response. But I noticed that because how much, I wonder, like, how much do we really listen to people? And how much... And so, like, here, let me ask you this. This is an interesting question. Do you think, and we're going to get back to the original question, and I got this whole thing tracked, but do you think everyone's curious? Do you think curious is something that is natural for everyone, that is unique to some people? Some people have it, some people don't. What's your opinion? Can it be practiced? What's your thought on that?
There's lots of interesting research on it. I think we all start out curious, as babies and as kids. We kind of have to in order to make sense of our environment. And there's fascinating research that like question asking peaks around age 4, where kids can be asking even as many as hundreds of questions a day, and then it drops pretty precipitously as kids go through school.
Do they know why?
There's a few different reasons. I mean, some of it is that like just the way that the circuitry in the brain shifts, that we actually start to have more models of how the world works. And so there's fewer questions that we ask. But a lot of it, and some of it is that parents get sick of the questions.
Right.
And so they just give fast answers, or they say, stop asking so many questions, all that kind of thing. And then some of it is that we put kids into schools that tell them to essentially sit down, shut up, listen, and give the right answer, the single right answer. And so we kill the curiosity as well in schools, which is a big part of my motivation for what I do. So all of those different reasons. I do think there's this is my own sense now. I think there's natural variation in the level of curiosity that people have. But I don't think that curiosity is just a trait that some people have and other people lack. I think, and I don't think it's just like a sort of fixed state of mind, like I'm curious now or I'm not curious. I look at curiosity as a choice. And I talk about this in the book, and I say, curiosity is a decision that we can make. It's always available to us. But it's an intentional decision. And what choosing curiosity really means and looks like from my perspective is asking myself, what can I learn from this person? If I'm sitting down with you and I want to choose curiosity, that's the question that I center in my mind. And if I'm having a fight with you and I think I'm right and you're wrong, I can choose curiosity. I can say, you know what? Let me just see what I can learn from this person. How does he see the world? What does he see that I'm missing? What's his story? What's the impact I might be having that's in my blind spot? And so I believe it's something that we can choose. And the more we practice, to your point, something we can practice it, the greater that muscle.
But is it like, I know you could practice like the skill set of curiosity or the manifestation of curiosity. Don't you feel like you either have it or you don't?
Well, in that moment, you do have it or you don't. But I think I think you can choose to have it in that moment. Yeah.
You know, we both had books come out. We've both done tons of podcasts this year, which has been I want to talk to you about that experience. But
yeah.
For me, the experience has been incredible. And there's a lot of learning that comes up for me from the people that different questions that come at me. And sometimes it comes from the smallest podcast, you know, and I prep for all my podcasts. I listen to 2 or 3 episodes before, even if they got 1,000 monthly listeners, I do my job. At least I'm sure I could offer the most value. And sometimes I find that the most interesting, challenging questions come from the smallest podcaster, the most unprofessional with the system, but somehow they ask me a question that really stumps me. And through these questions or these conversations, I've really seen how like curiosity is really a fundamental piece. I think maybe not for everybody, but for you and me in this field of questions and this, I think it's almost like a cliche for us. It's like, yeah, it's like such a big word, it's so important. But one thing that comes up for me, and I was going to throw this at you, is like people say, so they ask me that question. And so the answer that I've kind of not landed at, but I'm exploring right now, because I haven't landed anywhere because I think it's a lot to look at, is like, I don't think, well, maybe it's a semantic thing, but it's like, yes, I think we all have curiosity, but we're all curious about different things. So like, you might be curious about a person and their stories. Someone else might be curious about your problems and how to solve problems. Someone else might be curious about how you built your business because they want to build business. Someone else might be curious about food, right? Or physics, right? Or finances. So my recommendation is like, find the thing you're curious about and like root your questions in that curiosity, which is real, versus, look, I don't really give a shit about this person, but what about them interests me? Is it their clothes? Is it the shoes? Is it how they walk? Is it, you know, the fact that they speak Italian? Like, what is it about them that I am curious about? And don't fake the other shit, because the other stuff is, it won't inspire. Well, maybe you can be skilled enough to ask quality questions even though you don't care about the answer.
That doesn't work if you don't. Yeah.
They feel it, right? And they're not going to. So I don't know. That's the thing that comes up for me is like, I think it's kind of like passion. Like some people are like, I just don't have a passion. It's like, I think we all have a passion. Just like we all have a curiosity. It's just we have to find it. We have to like fuel the thing we're curious about. We have to fuel the thing we're passionate about. What do you think?
I love it. I love that idea. And I think that points to how asking questions also means that and getting curiosity means we need to ask questions of ourselves and say, what am I curious about? What am I passionate about? What's the thing about this person that could be interesting to me?
Which is in another itself is like, if you ask yourself that, okay, what am I curious about this person? That's already taking you a little bit closer to a little bit of empathy.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, that's part of what it could look like to choose curiosity. I love that angle into it as well.
So let's go to this number 2, transformative learning. What does that mean? Like, what does transformative learning mean? And like, where did you first experience a transformative learning that made you even think that that's so important? Does that mean if you use the term transformative learning, that means that there must be just learning?
Right.
So what's transformative learning, and when did you first have it to make you feel like, shit, that's what I'm about?
So when I think about transformative learning, I'm thinking about learning that really helps us push ourselves, grow, get to the next level as a human being, as a friend, father, professional, whatever it would be. I'm not talking about like, I learned how to build an Excel spreadsheet, or I learned, that's important learning. But to me, that's maybe smaller or more instrumental. Transformative learning is learning that really pushes you and changes you as a human being, and makes you better off for it.
I'm hearing exponential here. I'm hearing like this is not 1 + 1 is 2. This is 2 × 2 is 4. Or like
Yeah,
that's not actually
exactly.
That's just 2 + 2. So that doesn't
2
work.
to the squared.
2
is 4.
squared.
Yeah,
It's exponential, right?
yeah.
You could say transformative. You could just apply that definition to catalyst.
Yes. Well, that's why they go together, because I think my purpose is to catalyze this type of learning, and
So it's like breakthrough. When did you first have that experience of a transformative learning experience for yourself?
I mean, honestly, yeah, I think I've had a number of them. I mean, I think that the act of being a magician itself was transformative for me. Like it brought me the ability to stand up in front of people, especially as somebody who didn't feel comfortable often putting things out there. And it gave me a role.
No,
What do you see?
no, man. I'll tell you, the thing that's hitting me now
Yeah.
is the aha moment, is the reveal of the magician. When the magician goes da-da-da, and they go, oh!
Yeah.
They just like pop through their level of what they perceive to a new level of understanding. That's so the hit you got from the payoff of a trick, magic trick, is now transformed or now shifted into the word transformative learning, because I'm learning, but then boom, I have a breakthrough.
Yeah, total breakthroughs. So I think that in the world of magic, there's a lot of that goes on. I also, in my first job, I think I've told you about this.
Yeah.
This guy Chris Argyris, who really rocked my world around how people communicate with each other and how people get in their own way and stop their own learning. He had this exercise that he had us do called the 2-column case, where he would have us take an interaction and basically say, write down what happened in the interaction, what you said, what the other person said, put that all on the right-hand side of the page. And on the left-hand side of the page, now I want you to write down all the things you're thinking and feeling, but you didn't say in the conversation. And all of a sudden it takes all the stuff, the stories, the assumptions, the beliefs in your head, and it puts it out on paper. And now you can look at it and you can be like, that was my story? Because otherwise it was like you were operating as if that's just what's happening. All of a sudden you can put that out, and now you can be like, now I see why I did what I did. Now I see why I pushed back. Now I see why I didn't ask any questions. Now I see whatever it would be. That to me, that's a transformative learning experience, especially when you can then do something differently. Like, oh, that was my story. What if I tried out a different story? What if I tried out the story that they're actually trying to help me not get in the way? So to me, getting the opportunity to see my own shit out on paper and then look at it and talk about it and try something differently in such a simple way was absolutely transformative for me. And then when I started to get the chance to work with him and his disciples and help other people do this, that was transformative for me, because I thought, wow, I mean, I saw them go through these kinds of transformations. And I thought to myself, wow, look what I can do. Like with these tools, like look at, and that was like like to me, like I could do that all day, every day. Like I was having so much fun helping other people look at their own stuff using these tools. And I would feel like I was in the flow, like the flow state when you're like time is just standing still. And to me, actually, I think it was sort of pulling together like the ability, like the magician ability to be like to hold a room and to think about where everyone is and what they need and whatever else, with some of these incredibly powerful tools that started to be like, whoa, this is like I have found something that like really speaks to me.
It speaks to you because you're witnessing other people having a transformative learning experience.
Yeah, and you could even say I'm catalyzing it.
Right.
Like I'm actually part of that process.
So this kind of goes back to my first question, and we can return to it. But like, do you ever ask yourself or wonder why that gets you off? Why is it that about transform? Like, does it start when you're 21 and you're seeing Chris or in your 20s and you're seeing Chris Argyris doing that work? But do you think it's rooted it seems rooted in the magician trick? Like, how far back do you go? Or do you ever spend time on that? Like I do, but I don't know if everyone does.
I have thought a lot about it, and I think it goes, maybe I need to give you maybe we need to do that to answer that question. We might need to go to the third part of it.
Great.
Which is,
unlimited,
which is like
unlimited human potential.
yeah. What like so what for the learning? Why is the learning is important? Um, to me, the learning is important because it unlocks human potential. And I think that as humans we have so much potential that is suppressed. And I think that when we do this kind of learning, we start to release ourselves from the prisons that we put ourselves in, from the assumptions that we're holding that are not necessarily true, but we act as if they're true, and that like leads us to live small and like constricted and narrow. And this kind of learning allows us to be greater, to like live a larger life, to do things that we could never do before, to connect with other people in ways at levels of depth, and I think to actually like have positive impact in the world, whether in our relationships or our teams or our organizations or society or whatever it is. And to me, the idea of releasing that, and helping people get to the next level and the next level and the next level, there's nothing greater. Like that, like to me, that's like what it is.
But why? Like, what happened that makes you feel that way? Because where does that come from? Like, is that just innate in you, or do you think the universe has that built into your consciousness so that you can help, that we can help each other? Because there's a lot of people that I know that feel that way, maybe because I'm like that too. So I find people like me. But like, I'm wondering, is that something that was just like encoded into you before you were born in your personality, period? Or did something happen in a young age that you're like, oh, or you saw something that like caused a pain that then you had created a hunger that you wanted to like solve?
It's a really interesting question. I think it was kind of deep in me. I think that the universe put it in me. I think it comes out of the Jewish heritage that I was talking about before, because I do think that like the entire like central narrative of Judaism is the Exodus.
But that would mean that like for you to feel its heritage, that means that like some elder must have told you that story as a young person and you took it in.
Yes,
No?
or you could believe that it's in my soul. Like it's like deep,
Like,
like
it's in the lineage. It's in your lineage.
it's in what I carry, and what I've inherited and whatever else. I don't know that anyone has like told me that story, but I think that things like like just the ways that the subtle signals, the ways that parents and other people, but like it's in there, like
Yeah, beautiful. Can you go back? Because you're telling about the Exodus. So like that is emblematic of what you're experiencing. So tell me how you see that.
and I'm not a rabbi, so I don't have like all the details and the depth of it, but like to what I take from the central sort of like this, like the core narrative of the entire Jewish experience is this exodus from Egypt. Like, and, the word for Egypt in Hebrew is Mitzrayim, which also means the narrow place. And so then to me, like the narrow place is the assumptions that we hold that lead us to live small, that lead us to like believe that we can only get so far, or we can only do so much, or we can only be so much. And so at a metaphoric level, to me, the process of Exodus is the process of releasing those assumptions and releasing our limiting beliefs so that we can get to the promised land, so that we can get to a better, bigger, freer place. Like I truly believe that this kind of transformative learning is a liberatory process. Like in the same way that the Exodus was a liberatory experience for for my people.
You know what hit me right now?
Yeah, what hit you?
You have a limiting story. You have a story. And the only way to see a different story than the story you have is to see it from another point of view. You got to step out from another angle. So there's only two ways to do that. Either you engage with someone else and you like feel, empathize, and you see their POV, and you ask questions or you have conversations and you have the curiosity to like, oh, wait, let me see it from this POV. Therefore, by seeing it from that POV, my POV will slightly shift if I'm open to that.
Yeah, I'll grow and learn and evolve.
Or something happens, you get hit by a bus, you meet the love of your life, something happens that then creates a transformative learning experience, or something that just you see something totally shifted, right? And what I'm hearing you say is like exit, like the movement of the unlimited, like we're in a narrow space. Why? Because we tell ourselves stories. or we tell ourselves we have beliefs that we hold on to, values, rules, what it is, and then hopefully we can have an experience, whether it's in our own life, just by the universe offering it, or something happening, or by engaging with other people and seeing it from their point of view, will slightly shift or give us greater understanding and expand us, take us from a narrow place to a wider place.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And to me, the idea that the way that we see ourselves and then we see the world and what we do is one of the core determinants of the reality that we create for ourselves.
Ooh, wait. Go back. Say that again.
Yeah. Just that the idea that the way that we see ourselves, the stories, the assumptions, whatever we tell ourselves, is one of the most important determinants of the reality that we create for ourselves, both our felt experience and the material reality that we create for ourselves and the world and other people. To me, the possibility that through changing that, we literally can have a different reality for ourselves and the people around us and other people, is one of the most interesting and exciting things that's out there. And the idea that we can then do something about that, and that I can be a catalyst to help somebody actually transform that and have a totally different reality. How cool is that? What could be cooler than that?
But see, that's why you and I are like symmetrical, because we're both like, that would be cool. And I could imagine some listeners or some people like, what are these guys think that's cool? Are you kidding me? Like, but like for me, that's why we're like very symmetrical and similar. Like, I totally am like, and I did that retreat for 3 different times called Grace, which was the way I articulated it with them. And this embodied experience, storytelling experience, was basically like, look, you change a story of you, change the possibilities of who you become.
Yeah.
Right? So you're like, oh, this is what happened to me, therefore this is who I am. Like, cool, if that's who you are because that's the story you give it, then what's possible in the future is like, these are the possibilities. But if you actually, now these things happened for sure, but if you change the narrative thread that connects all those things, right, that changes the possibilities of the future.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then.
And I want to ask you a question next.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So then how do you feel your past up until now has shaped you for the future that's coming for you?
That's a big question.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because you could I wonder where you're going to start. Are you going to start from the past to then say what you're going, or are you starting from the future you think and then seeing how the past shaped you for, I'm wondering what.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's so many strands and stories of the past that have shaped me. And part of me is sort of like, I want to look forward.
Yeah.
Not be constrained by all of those different stories in the past.
Yeah.
But there's just so many strands. Like, I'm so fortunate to have grown up in a family where I felt loved and where I felt safe and where I felt like I could do whatever I want to do and be whoever I want to be. And all of that shaped me. And that's just privilege and luck and, basically good fortune that I had. So I got all that in my past. I also have these stories that I told myself that I'm not safe, and that has shaped me in the ways that has led me to lead with questions and lead with holding back and all that kind of thing. I've also had experiences where I have been able to build new things, build organizations and build towards goals and and all that, and that has shaped me and given me a set of tools and confidence and all that kind of thing. And I've had experiences screwing up and really, especially as a manager, missing things that people told me or trying to control or pressure people in ways that were just destructive. And that has shaped me and hopefully shaped me by teaching me some really important lessons about how not to be and what not to do. So there's so much, so many different strands of things that have happened and stories that have shaped me. And then of course my stories of as a husband and a father and all that as well, which has probably been the most formative experiences of my life. So if I look back, it's all of it.
Yeah.
All of those different things. And my hope is that at any moment in time, I can say all of it has happened so that I can be at this moment now, so that I can look forward and actually do what I want to do and have the impact that I want to have and be the person I want to have. And like, it was all meant so that it could add up to this moment. And I feel like I'm somewhere in that part of my life right now, even while there's so much more to learn too.
Right. But you're also like kind of positioning yourself or preparing for the next possible moment that you kind of position yourself in the space of the next moment. And that's something that you kind of sense and you're attracted to because you're like, so where are you? The book is out, right? It's been out for like 6 months now. It came out, what, May?
Yep.
April, May. And you're still doing that work, but like where do you feel the future is pulling you possibly to?
I'm in one of those places in my life that I think I've never been before, which is a space like a true space of inflection and possibility and emergence, but also uncertainty as well. And I think past versions of myself would have been anxious and uncomfortable in the moment that I'm in, and out of that anxiety or discomfort, very quickly tried to close some doors and narrow in and be like, this is the thing, and like, let's do that or whatever. And I'm trying to like embrace this emergence of where I am right now. So, at a personal level, I am a year and a half away from being an empty nester. And so my son is in college. My daughter's, a year and a half away from either going to college or going off to do the gap year or whatever she might do. And I don't know where I'm going to live. My wife and I, probably are not going to live where we're living right now. And it could be anywhere literally in the world. And I don't know what that's going to mean or what that's going to look like or whatever. But we have a lot of ideas and thoughts, everywhere from, Colorado and the mountains to New Zealand to Europe or to whatever it might be. I don't know where my kids are going to land. I don't want to just make decisions without thinking about that. Like, I don't know what we're going to do with our dog. Like, all the micro to the macro to, all of that kind of stuff. I also don't know where my own parents are dealing with health issues as well. And I don't, so at the personal level, there's all of that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the state of our country is going to be or our world, whatever.
I call that between the trapeze. Like, the trapeze
Yes.
jumpers, they're like on the trapeze.
Yeah.
And then at some point they let go and they're hanging and they're flying up before they catch to the other trapeze. You're like
Yes.
right there in that, like in mid-flight. You don't know how things are going to land. You're just it's like scary as hell because you don't know what you're holding on to. But like at some point, land.
Exactly. And I think that maybe different past versions of me might have held on to that other to the first trapeze,
right?
And maybe missed the second trapeze or not, not seeing that there's and so I love, to me, like part of transformative learning for myself is learning to trust that there's going to be another trapeze, and maybe I can't exactly see it or know it or whatever else, but it's going to be there. So
right.
there's a lot of uncertainty in my personal life that I'm just trying to like be more comfortable with and embrace and all that kind of thing, for maybe the second, because I just turned 50 this year, so like the second chunk of 50 years or whatever. Maybe there'll be another chunk. We'll see
for sure.
And then at a professional level, I'm also I stepped out of my role as co-CEO. I've launched this new thing called Transcend Labs, which is to think about what could be future directions that that the organization might go. So for example, one of those directions is international presence of the work that Transcend does, and I'm getting a chance to meet incredible people around the world who are doing this. My mind is expanding and all that kind of stuff, and I see huge possibilities there. And then equally with Ask, the book, I'm just so passionate about it, and I've had the chance over the last 6 months to hear from people who've said what a difference it has made for them and in their life and in their world, and have said like, how do I bring this to my team and my organization? And so I'm exploring that too. And I have an incredible collaborator, Emily, we've worked together from the very beginning, and she has a lot of drive to help bring this stuff to the world. And I think I'm trying to resist the idea that I have to like, it's got to be an either or it's got to be like, you got to do one thing you can't do. But I'm sort of playing with the possibility of what might it mean to have a life that allows for all various forms of impact consistent with my purpose to become, and have like a bigger sense of possibility, more expansive sense of possibility of what this next phase of my life could look like than I even started with before. And again, I don't know how it's going to unfold, but I'm enjoying the process.
Kudos.
Now, can I ask you a question I was going to ask you?
Yeah.
You said that you also have spent a lot of time thinking, like we share a, this love for unlocking and learning and expanding and, transforming. And you spent a lot of time thinking about where that comes from for you. So what is your answer?
About what? Like
what gives rise to it in you? Yeah.
Like why I'm really enjoy people working together.
People working together and questions and learning.
For me, I think it comes from like, look, I was born and my earliest memory is my parents fighting. I mean, 3 years old.
How old was that?
3
years old.
I mean, even when I was 2, I could feel like, I don't remember the unity of my parents. Just one time.
Mm-hmm.
My dad took my mom out.
Not ever.
Just one time, my dad took my mom out to dinner in Topanga, California. I kind of just, for some reason, I remember that dinner. They were already separating, but they were kind of together. I'm not sure, but he took her out for her birthday. My brother and I were there. He's 15 months younger than I. And I remember like dinner, but then we walked to the car and it was separate cars. So my dad walked us to my mom's car. So they must have already been separated, but they were like in that phase. And my dad was really funny. My dad's really funny. He made my mom laugh a lot. Even now when they're divorced and whenever they are together, my dad can still make my mom laugh, even though he doesn't try. It's like really cute. He made her laugh that she's like, oh, I'm peeing myself, like making her laugh so hard that she pissed her pants. And that's like the only time in my life that I remember my parents like integrated together, which is ironic. That's like so funny that she peed her pants, but like, and I remember us laughing. That's it. I got one memory. And I'm sure there's probably many. I just well, maybe there aren't. I don't know. I don't remember them. And so I think from early age, it was like trying to suss out. And also I'm the older brother. I'm 15 months old. So it was kind of like a responsibility to like take care of him or watch over him or like try to control the situation. You're 3 years old, 4 years old. It's unstable. The gods are fighting and you want to survive. And then you want to protect this kid who's younger than you.
So when they're fighting, your experience is, I might not survive this, or I might not be
but like there's like there's like fireballs flying around the room.
The world is like
crashing,
crazy.
like what
My world is
crumbling.
Yeah.
Like how do I hold this bubble together? How do I manage these two gods so they don't fight? And I think that's where it was like, okay, I need to figure out how to control the situation. I need to figure out how to find connection, to cultivate connection, how to make peace.
Between the two of them, or between you and them?
No, between them two.
Yeah. And did you actually do that? Did you work to like try?
Oh, I tried, but it was 3-4 year old. What is a 4 year? I mean, yeah, I tried. I mean, my memory in the book is like negotiating a contract between my parents at like 5 years old.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's like, I mean, my dad is like, you make me look like an asshole. Is this even true? I'm like, I don't know if it's true, but that's what I remember. That's my memory, and memories lie and they change and they morph. Totally. But that's my narrative, right? So that's where I'm at. That's where I find. I also think that there's kind of like you talk about the Jewish heritage and lineage and like it's something that you carry with you like in your soul. And I do think there is something about lineage. Like I do think there are memories that, and like, it's interesting. In earlier podcasts, I asked my dad this because I had this realization that like, so my dad as a kid, his father was very tough on him and sometimes would tell him, I put glass in the food. I'm not exactly sure the context, but it would be like, I put glass in the food. So my dad would always be scared to eat the food because he'd be scared of eating glass.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I have dreams sometimes, especially after I have a few drinks and I'm dehydrated, my mouth is dry, of eating glass in my dreams.
Do you really?
Recurring.
Recurring dreams.
Well, not like all the time, but definitely when I'm dehydrated. When I'm dehydrated. Yeah. So if you're having 3-4 glasses of wine, you go to bed without drinking water, you're dehydrated and you're like always glass in the mouth. And I'm like, where does that come from? Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, maybe, I don't know. But then it struck me, maybe that's a memory that my dad had that was just passed down.
Yeah.
It's a fear that he had that was passed down. and it
Collective
manifests.
memory.
Yeah. And so maybe there's also my family story was like posing as Muslims in Albania in World War II when the whole family was burnt, it was liquidated in Treblinka. Of my family, 9 members survived. They come from Macedonia where there were 7,300 Jews and only 169 survived. And my family was 9 of the 169 of 7,300. And the whole family was, except for my father, my grandparents, and my father's uncle and his family. So it was 9 of them who survived. And so that fear is obviously in me, but their story was posing as Muslims, being hidden by an Albanian family, Muslim Albanian family, posing as Muslims. And when they went back to make a documentary about it in 94, which is on YouTube, I Want to Remember He Wants to Forget is the title of the film. But in it, the director asked the family that saved us, said, did you know they were Jews? And like, oh yeah, we knew from the day they arrived. So during the war up until 94, our family thought that we successfully posed as Muslims.
Oh, you thought that you even deceived the people who were hiding.
They knew from day one.
But you didn't know, your family didn't know that they knew.
No, not until that documentary. It's right there on film.
Wow.
So the Qadi, the religious cleric of the village, or the town that brought us to the village, when he gave us to the villager, the family, Ali and Rajib, they were brothers, said, hide them, they're Jews. No, we didn't hear that. We just thought we were running. Our thing was we're running from a blood feud from the neighboring Pristina. So there was a responsibility to hide anyone running from a blood feud. So that was the cover. And so ultimately it's like that, I think from an early age taught me that like, it's not about the politics. It's not about religion. It's about personal responsibility. What responsibility are you personally taking and carrying on? And let's not hide behind, or let's not utilize nationalities, religions, politics to like defer the personal responsibility we need to take in terms of how we treat each other. So I think that's like at least those are the stories I heard, right? As a child, that definitely like gave me a sense of responsibility in terms of how I can contribute to that. I don't know. I think that's part of it. That's part of my lineage.
The personal responsibility we take for how we treat each other.
Yeah, because after the war, when the war shifted and the partisans came out of the woods, my grandfather, who'd been hiding as a Jew, who's working with the partisans as a medic, he went hunting for fascists, right? Now he's going to kill the fascists. And then where are the fascists hiding? Other Muslim villagers in Albania are hiding them. And I don't know if this actually happened, but like I heard echoes of it in my research. So I was always, before I was a filmmaker making films, I always wanted to make this film, but it was like showing that through the story of a film, because here was a guy who was hiding only when things swapped, and now the fascists were hiding because the partisans, the communists were coming out of the forest and now hunting fascists. He went hunting, and then he would find him like, how could you hide a fascist? And the Albanians like, well, they're human too, aren't they?
And the complexity of that.
I think that that's something we really need to like be aware of, and like the work that I feel we're doing with with these conversations. It comes down to people's conversations and the ability to not even answer questions. We don't have to fucking have the answer, but can we sit in the discomfort of the question?
Yeah.
Sit in the discomfort of the question.
That's one of the things I love about the end, in addition to, in part because of the cinematography of the whole thing, getting a chance to just experience somebody else's humanity up close that you wouldn't otherwise. To literally be like, wow, that's their experience. And it creates such a level of empathy that I've never felt before.
So, when you do all the podcasts, like the one good thing about it is that you find your like catchphrases that are like catchy. Mm-hmm. And the one that I've like caught on to, one of them is great. It's like, cause now you have them like, I've done like 91, right? So
wow, you've eclipsed me. Wow.
I'm like, but I started 6 months before you. It's not a competition, but one of them is like, humanity is not within us. It's between us.
Oh.
So the question is, how do you cultivate it? Because it's not something that's in you. It's between us.
I love that.
Yeah. And so that's really anyways, I think that's what like informs me. And then generationally going back, and I don't know, then then you become a father, and then you see, and like we're 48. We're very similar in age, but I have younger kids. I started way after you. So my kids is nearly 5 and nearly 2. You probably remember that. That was tough learning to be a father, like learning about your own, reactions that are not helpful
Yeah.
or, getting angry too quick or not listening. And then you just, really had that experience of seeing yourself as a child because you're like talking to your son, but your son is kind of a reflection of your own child, of the needs you have. So that's a lot of transformative learning for sure. And like, it's learning that it's like, okay, I get it, but am I embodying it? Like, am I fully going to shift, or am I just going to cognitively get it, but I'm going to,
What's the hardest shift for you?
well, the anger, the control freak. I don't know if it's a control freak, but got like, hey, it's got to happen now. Or why do I have to say it 3 times? And the thing I'm trying to get good at is making everything a joke. Like for
Uh-huh.
myself, not for him, which
Uh-huh.
is good, but like for me to see everything
To see the humor in it
like
all.
it's taken me 8 times to say, clean up your room, and he hasn't even moved, and it's taken me 8 times. Like instead of like, like finding the humor in it, because that's
Yes,
all. It's like
that's good.
Rilke, the German poet, was like, life is only short. Life is only long enough for a joke. Like at the end of the day, you have like, you're about to die. You have that flash. It's like, I hope that flash before I go is like just long enough for a joke, like a good, funny joke. So I
Yeah.
go out with a laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. And how insignificant so much of it is,
Right?
whether the room gets cleaned up now or later or at all or
Right.
whatever.
Like,
Yeah.
what do you remember? You know?
Yeah. Yes.
Tell me something. What did you learn from either writing, like, what do you learn from writing the book, or for the press after all the articles and the interviews you've done and all that? Like, what have you learned in that process that has surprised you the most? Don't tell me about like how many people it's affected.
I think I've learned something about my own voice.
Mm.
I think taking it back to the whole, where I went earlier around, my default mode was to not put my voice out there, but to ask questions. And when you write a book, that's basically announcing your own voice. Like that's putting your whole voice out there. A month ago or two, I gave a TEDx talk, and that's like literally standing. I feel naked, like in front of, a whole room of people.
Yeah.
With nothing between me and them other than me talking at them.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
For that. And that was the hardest thing for me, because I have all these stories that I started with of like, they're not going to be interested in me. They're going to judge me. They're going to, whatever else. And to put myself through the exercise of, despite all those stories, actually writing like a multi-100-page book, or just standing there and actually talking to them for 18 minutes. So what surprised me is the fact that people listened and read it and actually liked it, and and whatever, and didn't, and all those things that deep inside of me I might have assumed were the bad things that were going to happen, like they're all going to leave the room because they're walking away, whatever. I have these stories like in my head, like if I'm standing in front of a group and one person leaves, I'm like, all right, well, that's the first one, now they're all going to go, or whatever. None of that happened. That's probably the biggest surprise to me, and for me that was transformative, because it's like, actually, maybe it's not the way I thought it was. Maybe there's actually something that I have to offer. Maybe there's actually people actually are going to be interested, in all the ways I assumed that they wouldn't be. And so I think in some ways it's like, I appreciate the question. I think it's been a healing experience for me, to walk up those hills that seemed so mountainous.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing for me to do, both in the book and in the TEDx talk, was to like really tell stories. Because to me, that's like, I'm going to take your time to really listen to me and my experience and all that kind of thing. And I think I just have like decades of like compressing all of that stuff, because I didn't have the thoughts and the confidence that people are going to actually be interested. And so it's been like, trying to like release that and expand that. And I still have work to do to get better at that, because they're in me, but expressing myself, I think it's been, was a big part of that surprise.
I have 2 questions, right? First one is just, how did you prepare for that? Because it's one thing to write the book and then you put it out. But then like you have to go talk about it. For me, it took me like 6 months to prepare into the mindset to even like, okay, because I was the same. I don't want to put myself out there. And, there's a sense of imposter syndrome. There's a sense of like, what do I have to say that people are going to, how did you prepare yourself such that you could really go out there?
I would say I have two answers to that. The first is I kind of like used my go-to strength, which is asking other people for help and asking other people questions. And so for the TEDx talk, I hired a coach who was an actor, is an actor, and he gave me a lot of feedback. And so I asked, I basically asked him for help, and also for the speech, as you know, because you were one of the people who helped me, like I put the talk out there and I asked for help too. And I have some friends who ripped it to shreds in like in no uncertain terms, and made it so much stronger because of that. And so I think I basically, just felt like I needed to ask enough people until I got the sense, okay, I can see how it's going to land. I can see what's going to happen here. And I can see myself making it better in response to that, to the point where I felt like I had confidence to do it. I would say that's probably number one. Maybe there's three answers. Number two is I just put the work in. Like I practiced it and and whatever. And with the book, like revised it and revised it and revised it. And, and in the case, both of the book and the talk, like did it in collaboration with Emily, who, helped me feel confident and make it stronger and substantively improve it and all that kind of thing. So I wasn't alone. And then I think I just, there's some level of like, I just tried it. I just wandered into it. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I signed myself up for it. I guess I'm doing it. I'm just going to do it. And I,
You just walked the plank. You just went.
I just walked the plank. That's a good metaphor. I just walked the plank and I jumped. And that was, that's kind of part of it as well. And for all of the insecurities that I've been like describing to you, I simultaneously have like all the privileges of being like a white man, straight guy in our society that gave me a level of confidence that not everyone gets to have. And so I think I can't ignore the fact that that was real too.
Actually, that's one of the first questions I asked the editor when she asked me to write the book. I'm like, why do we need to hear from another white, cisgender, heterosexual, male? Not to mention like bald, another bald-headed dude. Like fucking, there's so many of us.
With a beard.
Like Jesus. The second part of that question would be, how has this experience and this realization, the surprise that like it is landing for people and there is value to your voice, how has that changed you? And what I mean by change you is this: how are you going to walk into the future differently than if you hadn't had that lesson, if you hadn't experienced this experience you've had with the book? How are you walking into the future differently than you would have if you didn't have this experience? And that's the sense of how it's changing.
Yeah, that's the transformation. I'll say two things. I mean, I think it's given me more confidence that I can help, that I can add, that I can make a difference, that people will be interested and people care. And so it changes my own internal experience of myself and my relationships. And I'm hoping, and I might rephrase your question to say not how has it changed me, but how is it changing me? Because the change is ongoing. My hope and my challenge to myself is that it will inspire me to play bigger, about what's possible, about how I might be able to continue. Like I'm continually asking myself, how am I limiting myself right now? Like what's the bigger thing? And so I'm searching for people and role models and examples of people who are just like trying to play bigger. And then the last thing I would say is like it's fueling my motivation to help other people do the same thing as well. And so to like not just have confidence for myself or play bigger for myself, but can I imagine a way in which there's a whole chorus of us like singing towards these same messages in these directions? How can I be constantly taking what I'm able to do and bring someone with me and lift someone else up and do it and to do it in a way that helps them have the same kinds of transformations that I've been having, whether in Transcend or in the field or whatever else. And so that's the space that I'm in right now. It's like it's sort of like a shift inside myself that leads me to play bigger, not just alone, but hopefully in context with other people too. That's what I'm going through.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to end it here, but I got to end it with one last question to bring it personal, because like what comes up for me when you say that is I'm just thinking like, why? Why does this guy care so much about bringing other people with him? Like, why? I mean, I care, but like, why? And not everyone does. And like, it also sounds like bullshit, right? Because you're like, really, why? And so I want to ask you a question that might reveal that in a way that on the questionnaire that you filled out, I said, what are the things you're proudest of? One of your greatest achievements? And one of them you said was what our relationship is. I think you meant in the context of your family. You said like my family does, and you know, my work, but and you said like, and what our relationship is. So like, what is your relationship like that makes you feel it's a proud achievement?
Maybe I'll answer that in the context of your broader question, which is like, why?
Well, yeah, I mean, because I assume that the relationship you have family, your effort to bring other people with you is just an extension of that sense. Maybe.
Yeah. You know, when I was reading you at the very start of this conversation, my purpose statement.
Yeah.
I left off a little bit at the end because I haven't totally tuned the words, and I feel like it was getting long anyways. But if I read the full thing, catalyze transformative learning to unlock human potential for positive impact. That's the final piece of it. And to me, like that's the ultimate why, is for the impact. And when I think about the impact I want to have, I think for a while I have been motivated by scale and reach, like how many kids have I touched and how big is the organization, like how, like all that kind of thing. But if I really like sit with it, and what I really care about impact ultimately is like relationships. It's back to like, am I somebody who has made someone else better? Am I somebody who somebody feels like they can count on and trust? Am I somebody who can share moments with people that we both like really, really value? And that's the kind of positive impact, you know, that there is. And I think when all that happens, people do good things in the world. And, you know, I do root all of that back also to like the Jewish tradition of repairing the world, and leaving it better than you found it. And I believe the same for relationships as well. And so the relationships that I get to have with my wife and my kids mean the world to me. And that doesn't mean that they're always easy or positive or whatever. Like that's ultimately like my rock and where I go back to, and what I feel I can count on and what I want to be for other people as well. And I get so much knowing when I find out that I've done that for someone else, it fills me up a lot. And so I don't know if that's an answer to your question or not, but that's where my mind goes.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for your time, man. Thanks for your openness. Thanks for your sharing.
Thank you for this conversation.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, we've both done a lot of podcasts. Some of them have gone deeper than others, but I've never had this kind of conversation before.
Oh, cool.
Never on a podcast.
Well, that gives me some
barely
hope
in life. And so what what you're doing in this podcast is so different. It's so much deeper. It really is getting under the skin, and in a profound way. And I think it's modeling, like what you talk about, what I care about as well. So I wasn't sure what to expect, and I'm very grateful.
Oh, dude, thank you so much for saying that. I'm on an expedition. I'm on an expedition. I don't know where it's going. So hearing that gives me fuel for the next few kilometers.
You're going somewhere important, I think.
Oh, thanks.
Really, on this.
Yeah,
I really think so.
I'm following my instincts on this, and I'm trying to figure it out. But I really appreciate that reflection. I really appreciate the conversation we had. It was beautiful, and we'll do it again, man. So thanks.
Amazing.
Guts is a Skin Deep media production. The show is produced by Sundus Hassan Noli, video by Dane Montezan, with editorial support from Ants Cabral and executive produced by me, Topaz. Special thanks to all the guests who showed guts without whom there will be no getting under the skin. Interested in joining our community and following this journey? Visit guts.podcast on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And check out our website, theskindeep.com, for in-depth conversation card games that create the space for connection, intimacy, and deeper conversation. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, keep having the guts to get under the skin.